Ineffective force has the appearance of excessive force. And so people will watch something ineffective and they'll lose confidence in what they're looking at. And they'll say, oh, this is such a mess. It must have been bad. It must have been unlawful. Then it'll get evaluated on a legal standard and it'll be found that it's not unlawful. The cop could respond to whatever it is they're seeing. It becomes more of an internal issue, like the cop needs better training. He didn't violate the law. And people who don't know the law or the training just see the ineffectiveness of what's happening and they jump on it and go, oh, that must be excessive.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, brought to you by Salty Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host, Riley Rogers, explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they're headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. Today we've got Chad Lyman on here, and Chad and I met through Ari Nazan, who was on a previous episode of the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and we've struck up a conversation here. We've got a similar background in jiu-jitsu, and then I learned through Ari that the Chad is the man to talk to about hands-on law enforcement training and what that means as far as jiu-jitsu, grappling, and when stuff goes bad in a law enforcement situation, on how to train officers to better handle themselves out there in the field. So, Chad, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, tell us about yourself, man. Let us get to know you a little bit. And where'd you grow up?
So, my name's Chad Lyman. I grew up in Southern California in Phoenix, Arizona. I kind of split between the two. Through high school, I served a mission for my church for a couple of years. Post high school, came back, married a gal that I'd known since I was young, and then been married now for I got married in 1990 in the summer. So 36 years, best thing I ever did there. Phenomenal young woman, and really grateful to her. She married me when I had nothing and had not achieved anything, and then she's helped me and helped push me to achieve a few things, even though there's nothing special other than trying to do a good job on a routine basis and doing that continually year after year. I've been very blessed. So married her. We had 8 children together. So we have 3 daughters and 5 sons. And we still have one at home. Yeah. And just, like I said, that's probably the single best thing I ever did, was marrying a good partner. Then as I went through college with my family, and with kids and working, and once I got done with college, I settled on law enforcement as a career, and that I started that in 1998. Started with a department up in Portland, Oregon, the Portland Police Bureau. Worked from 98 to 2004 with the Portland Police Bureau, and then I switched to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I still work for them today. And so I'm an LVMPD officer. In addition to starting as a police officer in 1998, by the end of 98, I realized I didn't have a bad experience. I didn't get beat up at work. I didn't get beat up as a child. I didn't get bullied. In fact, Nate and Nick Diaz, there's that famous conversation where they asked Nate if he ever got bullied. Did you ever see this? In an interview, and he says, no, man. And they said, why not? And he goes, because I had an older brother, and his older brother was Nick.
Okay.
And kind of a similar thing for me. My older brother was awesome, great example for me, very tough individual, and never really got bullied. So that wasn't really a question. I didn't start training because of bad experiences. I actually started training because early on in my policing career, I saw that my day-to-day activities were going to require me to put my hands on people. That was daily. Daily, I'm grabbing people's hands, I'm searching them, I'm in close contact with them. Um, I knew that that could turn into physical altercations. I grew up in Phoenix and LA. I was used to physical altercations. That wasn't a problem for me, but I was untrained. And I always had lifted and ran. I was in good shape. I was very strong for my size. But I just didn't have what I would call a professional response, a trained response that's reliable to me grabbing folks or having folks resist my attempts to control them. The only thing I really had was a just like any other untrained person, I'm just going to be really aggressive and have the mindset to win, and I'm going to just overpower this person, and I wanted to actually be good at my craft. And so I figured out within a few months that while I've always worked in busy areas for big police departments where we do actually have OASs, I've never worked for a small inactive police department. There's nothing wrong with that. If guys listening to this do, I'm not better than you. If you would have gone to my PD, I'm sure, and you would have worked at it, you could have the same success I've had. But I've had a ton of success at very good police departments. And part of that was I realized early on I need to make myself better. And so that was my impetus to start training. I looked for martial arts that would translate to what cops do. And this, mind you, this is in 98, 99. This is before jiu-jitsu is even really a mainstream thing. The UFC's on
Yeah, it's
TV,
still
but
pretty
this is your
sparse.
early UFCs, right? This is still style versus style somewhat in the UFC. You have wrestlers beating boxers. If you remember the early UFCs, Art Jimenez goes in, or I don't remember Art's last name, but he was a pro boxer. He comes in with one boxing glove one on, one off, and gets taken down, submitted. These are those early days of true jiu-jitsu guys, the Hoist Gracies versus other guys, and then you had the rise of the wrestlers, and then you had guys who learned to wrestle and strike in those middle years, and now it's grown to this overall. So there's the early days, and I'm looking for something, and in that pursuit, I found a mixed martial arts gym in Portland, Oregon, called Straight Blast Gym. And while some of the listeners may know who Straight Blast is, some may not, but to give reference, they're a worldwide organization that Conor McGregor fights out of a Straight Blast gym in Ireland, for example. They have gyms around the globe. Their headquarters, it so happens, is in Portland, Oregon. And I walked into that gym. There's a guy named Matt Thornton who runs that gym. There was a guy named Rob Follis who became a dear friend of mine. Matt Thornton's a friend of mine. I respect the guy. I love the guy. I ended up going a little bit different direction in my training as just moving and things like that, not because I ever had a falling out. And that was the gym I started at. And from day one at that gym, I was getting handled on a regular basis. And this is in 1998, late 98. I didn't necessarily like it at first because I wasn't having any success. I was a grown man, very strong, very physically fit, not afraid to fight, who was just getting tuned up every day in the room. And but my wife, and we didn't have a lot of money. We already had kids at that time, and I was a young rookie cop. And she bought me 6 months of training at one time, which was a hardship for us. And I couldn't quit because I had to go. And this is just giving that background on how I ended up in law enforcement and then in the training business and why I train the way I do. I know my microphone paused for a second, but just to kind of finish up that thought, I was looking for some kind of training that then would relate to what I was seeing at work. And I actually looked at Kempo Karate. There was an old karate school in Portland that I went to that I tried out because I didn't know where to look, right? And those guys
Right.
were tough, but they were kicking each other in the groin and throat punching each other. And I would say, what if a guy doesn't want to put their hands behind their back? Kick him in the balls. I'd be like, well, you can't just kick people in the balls. Rip his face off, you know? It's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6 or carried by 12. I don't know. They had this crazy saying, and I was like, no, that's not
Yeah.
true. You're going to get arrested. Like, not only can I not do that as a cop, but you can't do any of the things you're teaching in class. Like, you can't. Like,
Right.
a guy approaches, what if he's asking directions? He should have asked from across the street. You know, it's like, no, that's not the way the world works. You can't pluck dude's eyeballs out just because you don't like what he asked you. Like, so the Kempo guys were actually tough,
Big
but they
ups.
just weren't giving me anything I could do if a guy didn't want to put his hands behind his back. I went to Taekwondo, and I'm not ripping on folks. If you're listening to this and you do Taekwondo and you love it, keep doing it. Not applicable to a physical fight. It just wasn't. Anytime we grabbed each other, they would stop. The Kempo guys would grab your balls or try to bite you or whatever, you know, if you tried to wrestle them. Which it still isn't giving me an answer to a guy trying to wrestle me because I can't do that. Nor do I want to bite
Right.
these people. Like, I don't know if they've seen the people I'm dealing with, but some of them are dirty and open sore. I don't want to bite that dude. So,
Hepatitis
yeah.
is a real
So then
thing,
I
right?
walked into this MMA
Oh
gym
my gosh.
and saw that combination of striking, wrestling. At that time, we weren't using the gi. In the state of Oregon in '98, when I started training, blue belt was the highest rank in the state. There were a handful of blue belt guys in the Portland metro area and one blue belt guy in the Eugene area. All those guys kept training, and they're now all black belts, multiple degrees. Some of them are probably approaching like the belt change color from black to I think red and black's next. I think some of them are probably approaching that now after all
Yeah.
these years. But that my coaches were blue belts when I first stepped on the mats, but they could all wrestle and they could all box. And we started wearing the gi, and that from '98 to '04, I trained in Oregon, and I earned a blue belt during that time. I was competing a lot along with working as a cop. I moved to Vegas in '04, go to the academy again. I'm a blue belt, but I'm a seasoned blue belt. Like, I've been on the streets in Portland for several years. I worked in a great area. I had a great partner. We were very busy. I had several critical events. Moved to Vegas, go through the academy, find a good school there. In Vegas, there's obviously some great schools. Even back then, there were less. Now there's even more. Find a great school and continue to train and eventually earn my black belt in 2012. Earn my black belt. I actually get awarded my black belt at Extreme Couture on the mat um, by my original coach, one of my original coaches in Oregon, Mike Chapman, who I stayed in contact with. And even though I had coaches in Nevada, I stayed in contact with my Oregon guys and still do to this day, still train with them. And was awarded my black belt in 2012 by Mike Chapman from Impact Jiu-Jitsu, which is in the
It's
Portland
amazing.
metro area. And then from 2012 on, I've continued to train. As recently as this morning, I went to the gym and trained. And I'll be 58 this year, still training, still doing live rounds. Started teaching for money in Vegas in '06. Started getting paid as a coach. Professionally coached for a number of years up till about 2017, 2018, where I transitioned over to judging, and I no longer coach any of the fighters. I don't do pro classic couture. If you were to walk into coutures today, even with the current crop of athletes there, they will call me coach as I walk around, just out of um, respect for me, I guess, for lack of a better word. I certainly have spent zero time coaching any of the current pro guys. I don't go to team practice. I'm not around the gym when those guys are in the gym typically. They may be working in some of the octagons while I'm doing a civilian class on the main mats, but they still refer to me that way, and so I'm grateful for that. It's kind of cool. When I was little, I dreamed of playing
That is
pro
cool.
sports. I was just never good enough. But I coached professionally for a number of years for one of the better teams in the world. And Yeah.
It's
From
amazing,
the
man.
early days at Couture at Straight Blast to Impact to Coutures, I've been around such great coaches and learned from them how to run a room. How do we run drills? How do we develop drills? How do we train smarter so that we can train and be physical in practice, but we have low likelihood of creating injury? And for me, injury means I need surgery. I need to rehab it. We're going to get little bumps, bruises, little aches, little pulls, stuff like that's going to be routine. Maybe break a finger or a toe, but I want to stay away from injury. And being in the environments I've been in, where you have a guy who's in camp, he's going to fight on a UFC show. Clearly, you have to get him ready for a very real fight. But if you break him in the process and he doesn't get to fight, nobody makes money. So the goal is, now
Right.
everyone's hurt, has some sort of injury they're fighting when they fight, because that's your body is constantly getting broken down, and then you're rebuilding, broken down, rebuilding. But the goal is to not really hurt folks, and that translates over.
Well, Chad, discuss what you differentiate between injuries and what I like to call tweaks, right?
Sure.
If you've been in jiu-jitsu, you're tweaked
All
all
the
the time, but it's not, it's different than injury, right?
Yeah.
Explain that.
So, and real quick, because I think a lot of, well, let's go into that first. Yeah, your question. What's the difference? Injury means that something is broken, and I can still even work with broken fingers or toes. I can tape those to the other fingers or toes, and I can lessen
Right.
the impact on them. But let's say well, I was going to say a torn ACL, but I have a torn ACL. I've had a torn ACL for 2 years, and I'm still training every day. So if I were younger, though, I would get it repaired. That is an injury. I currently have an injury that I'm training with and I'm training around. So now I wear a proper brace to try to keep my MCL and my PCL safe. I'm not an advocate, if you have a torn ACL or a torn MCL, of continuing to train. It just so happens that I'm 58 and I don't want to give 8 months to the knife, because I can't get it back. I see this window closing for me. I tore this same ACL when I was in my 40s, and I had ACL surgery and had it repaired and came back from that and continued to train. So an injury is something like a torn ACL, a ruptured bicep, a broken arm, a broken ankle. It's something that you cannot continue to train, because you're either going to make it worse, and it just won't function. You can't use it anymore. That's an injury. I need to go have surgery. And by the way, when you go to the doc for sports injuries, and that could be CrossFit, that could be you play rec league basketball and you have an injury like a pull or a tear, or you roll your ankle. I would recommend don't go to regular doctors. If your insurance requires you to go to them, request them to send you to a sports specialist. And my insurance allows me to go right to the sports specialist. So when my knee started giving me indications it was torn again, I didn't go see a family doc. I could care less. That guy, I'll go see him if I have a temperature. I put right in to go to my guy who fixed it last time. I went to a surgeon, and he gave me an MRI, and he diagnosed it and said, yeah, we got to do surgery again. So an injury is something I need medical intervention. It will not heal on its own. I cannot make it better. A tweak is common and all the time. You should be working out at a level that you're tweaked consistently, or you're not staying in shape. Like, just staying in shape will tweak you.
Yeah.
And tweaks are to be trained around.
Yeah, man. That's right. I did a private lesson with a gentleman this morning, where his whole question was, he's got some kind of a ligament tear in the back of his shoulder back here, and he's had a hard time training, right? And so he wanted to know, is there a way he can continue? So we spent an hour just going over different little ways that you can train with this thing, and I had him, we were grappling without our gis on, but I had him tie his belt on, and I had him
Correct.
stick his hand in his belt and grab his belt. And then we just played around, and he had to defend himself while I beat the crap out of him, and I was nice, but that was the idea. It's like, you're going to learn how to defend now. You're not going to win. Sorry, you're down in a digit, and he's a white belt and I'm a black belt, and it's he's not going to win, but what he can do is learn a new skill.
So a couple of carry-ons to that. It's super important because it'll force you, and I've done that. I've tied my own arm down until it felt better. If I don't have to have surgery, or I don't want to have surgery, I'm like my ACL, I'm not going to have surgery at this point in my life. Well, I'm just going to brace up and keep training. Then that's my choice. I'm smart with it. Today, and I even covered this in the debrief at Couture's, I'm rolling, I get stuck in a weird position, I feel my shoulder tweak, sprain, whatever you want to call it, and I don't even know why. My partner didn't even have anything locked up. They were putting pressure on me topside, and I was trying to build base, come up, and wrestle up, and my shoulder starts to tweak. Significant enough that I can feel it almost like I'm going to tap to the position to move it, because I'm afraid I am going to get injured. I've done this so long. And then I take a breath and I settle into the position we're in, and I realize, okay, it's not in any danger of breaking or going out of joint, but it hurts. How can I move to relieve the pressure? In my mind, I switch and I go, if I was in a fight right now, outside, I don't get a call timeout.
Yep.
So how can I slow this down? My other arm, I hugged their weight. I got a tight waist and hugged them into me. And then I moved enough till I could get my shoulder out and start to move again. My shoulder is sore right now doing this, just sore. It's going to be sore tomorrow. But I finished a round, and then I did 2 more rounds, and I didn't tell anybody until the debrief. And the person I was rolling with, when it tweaked, oh, coach, sorry, I didn't know. I go, I know you didn't know. You didn't do anything. I didn't tell you. My point is, if I'm in a fight outside, do I have to work around it? Now, I told them, like I'm going to tell the audience now, if I had felt it tear popped out, that's a whole nother thing. I would stop. Don't be a crazy person. Don't be an idiot. But at the same time, if you'll train and work through tweaks, you can feel when it's a tweak. And then you just go, okay, I can roll around this, as long as you'll train through it. The people who take time off because they are uncomfortable, but they're not hurt or injured, or if you were to go to a family guy and he goes, oh, okay, my medical diagnosis is you have a sprain, my treatment for you is just to sit around. That's the worst thing you can do in the world. That's horrible for you.
Worst,
horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at the family doctor. He doesn't have a background in this. And he doesn't want to tell you something that'll make it worse, so he'll just tell you just stay off of it. Worst idea ever. Just work through it. You go to a sports guy, he's going to have you stretching that every day. He's going to have you roll it out. I'm going to roll this out tonight. I'll stretch it with intention tonight. Depending on how I feel, I might take something. I'll wake up tomorrow. I'm going to need to do a stretching routine tomorrow for this arm because I got to train Monday.
Right.
So I have until Monday to make it feel better, and that's the goal, and I'll work through it. Kind of the last thing on this discomfort thing, because there's a big reason cops don't train or civilians quit training. I'm active in my faith because I enjoy it. It serves me, and so I'm active in it. I certainly don't need to talk about what it is or try to convert anybody else. But I do have a church group that is my age that I meet with.
Business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space inside your location? If so, I want you to think about something. Your customers are buying electrolytes. You know that, right? The problem is they're not buying them from you. Well, Salty Electrolytes can help fix that with their wholesale program. They can bring these sales to you in-house so that your customers get the electrolytes they love from the company they love, you. All you have to do is head over to goearnyourSalt.com and scroll to the bottom of the page and click Apply for Wholesale. Do it now before you forget. I know your type, I'm one of you. Once again, that's goearnyourSalt.com. The link is at the bottom of the homepage. There will also be a link in the description on this video. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
I have a faith I enjoy. I go to it. The only reason I bring it up is because I have guys my age there. So sometimes the guys my age will say, we don't understand how you're doing all this training and how do you do it, and you're our age. Aren't you sore? Aren't you getting hurt? And so then I used to try to explain to them the difference between injury and pain and all that. Finally, what I said, it just came to me one day. I said, well, what about you? How do you feel? Oh, I got all these aches and I got all these pains. I'm on high blood pressure medicine. I get winded going upstairs. The stuff you're feeling is normal.
Yeah.
I'm either going to kill myself on the couch because we're all dying, or I'm going to kill myself in the gym. But it's up to you. And your time on the couch will be significantly better if you'll go to the gym. You should be
Yep.
sore from the gym. You should not be sore because you no longer do physical things because you tore your Achilles in 8th grade or whatever stupid story you're telling yourself. Oh, I used to work out until this. I used to do this. I used to do that. Now, do we do it differently than if you rolled with me 10 years ago, 11 years ago, it'd be a different experience than it is today. And I can't get that back. That is what it is. But I'm going to keep rolling. I'm going to keep working out. I've actually gone through this stage. It used to be that I could train really hard in the MMA gym, hard rounds, whether it be gi jiu-jitsu, no gi, MMA rounds, striking, whatever. Wrestling, I could do really hard rounds and just stay in shape. What's interesting is I've gotten older is I have to be intelligent with my rounds. I still can do hard rounds, but it's all relative. And now I have to do anywhere from 2 to really 3 or 4 is a sweet spot of bodyweight exercises, lifting, and cardio work on a treadmill where I'm walking. At 58, I don't run around my neighborhood. I don't run on the treadmill because that will beat the crap out of me. I walk on an incline, and I walk for anywhere from 30 to 50, 55 minutes. And then I also do weighted exercises, all for reps. There's not even a 3 to 5 heavy reps anymore in the weight room. It's all 10 or more, 10 up to sometimes 30 reps of whatever I'm doing with good form. I'm doing body weight stuff like crazy. I can't do enough body weight squats, push-ups, sit-up, crunches in a day. I can't do enough of those. So I'm working those in. When I'm at work for the PD, I'm in a unit where some of it is office work. I have my own office. On the hour, every hour, if I'm not out in the field, I have to get up and do 10 air squats, 10 push-ups, 10 crunches, and then get off a couch in my office and do tricep extensions. I have light dumbbells in my office. I'll get up and do 10 dumbbells, 10 curls, 10 tricep extensions on the hour. On the hour, I'm doing 3 to 4 exercises of 10 to 15 reps every hour that I'm
That's
in the
amazing.
office.
I love
And
that
so I can do
practical
that.
advice
I
there,
can do
man.
that just in my slacks and my shirt for the day. I'm not getting sweaty.
Right.
But I'm doing 10, 10, 10, and I have to do 3 to 4 exercises, 10. Well, if I do that on the hour and I just do the 10 and then move on, it takes me 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. And then I'm mixing in the evening or early morning jiu-jitsu or MMA, and then I'm mixing in walking on the treadmill. So does it take intention? Yeah. Do I have to be disciplined? Absolutely. Do I have to be on it? Yes. Am I sore? Yeah, I am. Yeah, every day. My biggest injuries are in my sleep. Like I wake up tweaked, not on the mat. So it's not like I can avoid these injuries of old age. I'm sore, but I'm capable. Like my wife and I went to a cruise to Mexico. I could go everywhere we want to go. I could go on long hike outings throughout a city if we wanted to get off the boat. I'm able to do all the stuff that, I used to do. It just might take me a little
Yeah,
longer.
that's the difference, right? You can be sore just like the other guys, but you're not getting winded going up the stairs, right?
And I don't have, now I'm on TRT. I'm on that with blood work under a physician. I do some peptides. Once again, under the help of I have a sports guy that I do my TRT through, that checks my blood work, that tells me hey, use this peptide when I do get a tweak that won't go away, it's persistent. I might use a combo peptide or something. So I am spending money on wellness, but I don't have blood pressure medicine. I don't have,
Right.
I'm not depressed. I don't have psychological medicine. I'm not, you know, every guy in my church group is on a med. They're all paying out of their pocket, but they're
Right.
also out of shape, and I love these guys. I'm not mad at them. I'm not talking trash about them, but
That's the reality, though. That's the
every one of
reality.
them wakes up sore every day. You might as well be working out. Every one of them is
It's
paying
funner.
for
It's funner to be in
medicine.
shape, right?
Yeah, I'm paying too, but the nice thing is the gym, I haven't paid for an MMA or jiu-jitsu membership since 2006. I basically get
Amazing.
paid every time I show up, so the gym's kind of nice. It's a source of income for me, but
Chad, let's back up the timeline here a little bit and back to when you graduated college and you went into law enforcement. What originally got you into law enforcement?
so I knew when I was young I wanted to either teach and coach. Well, when I was very little, I thought I'd be a pro athlete, and then um, once again, like when I look back at my lifetime, I've just been very blessed to be really good places with really good people. Everything I've tried to do. So my high school sports teams were actually really competitive in a big classification in a decent sized city with good sports. And in my mind, I want to be a pro athlete and I played high school. I played every major sport that I played in high school. There were guys that went to the league in those sports that I played with. So one of my buddies I played baseball with, two of them went to the majors and played in the majors, not minor league. They played Major League Baseball. One of my buddies I played high school basketball with played for the Boston Celtics and started. Three or four of the people I played high school football with played in the NFL. So once I started getting around guys at that level, I started figuring out, yeah, you're not going to play. You're not going to play D1, let alone any of those places. So I was like a junior college D2 athlete. And so then I transitioned in my mind and I thought, okay, I'm going to teach and coach. I'm going to be a firefighter. I'm going to be a cop. So I coached high school football and high school basketball as an assistant for a few years with very good programs. Loved coaching, didn't want to teach. Definitely didn't want to teach middle school or elementary, no desire. If I went into coaching, I wanted to coach probably collegiately or higher. And I don't know, I love coaching, and that's ultimately what I did professionally. But I didn't know, I didn't even know MMA wasn't even a thing. So that wasn't an avenue. So I looked at teaching and coaching. Also, the reality of we wanted to be a one-income family. We wanted my
Mhm.
wife to be able to stay home with our kids. And I didn't know if I could do that as a high school teacher. And so that would be another push that I would have to go beyond high school if I'm going to coach. But I just didn't want to teach, to be honest. Then I tried firefighting, and I was a firefighter for a year. I graduated a firefighting academy and was a firefighter for a year and hated holding short. Whenever something was happening down the street, I wanted to go down the street and fight people. And that was firefighting was primarily a medical profession. You were primarily caring for people who got in car accidents, or they fell down, or they couldn't breathe. And firefighting's really you're doing stuff in the field, but it's medicine, and then you're transporting them to facilities to be medically treated. That is the majority of your job as a firefighter. There were some structure fires, not that many, and even the way they handle those over the years has changed. I did some wildland firefighting because I did some reserve work, and then I graduated in academy, and I actually worked for a fire department. Just didn't like it, man, and switched over to the dark side. Um, Went on ride-alongs with my brother-in-law, who was a cop at the time, and crazy stuff with us that, like, this is years and years and years ago. Now that I am a cop, like, we didn't even fill out paperwork to ride along. He would say, meet me on the corner of such and such, such and such at this time, and we would go down there and park our car and get out of our car and get into his police car. And we would never even meet his boss. So I know he wasn't even signing us in. This is back in the day. He's no longer a cop. He can't get in trouble. But he was literally just driving us around, and we were chasing people, and we'd get out of the car and do a foot pursuit. We would run with him. And that was when I was like, oh, crap, I got to do this. This is amazing. So
Oh, that's great.
my brother-in-law exposed me to law enforcement. I looked at the military. All the stuff I would have wanted to do in the military was not conducive to being with my family. So then after doing ride-alongs with my brother-in-law, Fred Cuthbertson, great dude. He was a Glendale, Arizona cop. What's interesting about those times is, out of those of us who jumped into that car and rode around with them, like, there were 4 or 5 of us between my brother and his brothers who would ride along with Freddie, and 3 of us became cops. So,
Wow.
and then over time, we've had 8 members of our family become active law enforcement, with those guys serving in various departments. One of us has been shot in the line of duty. One of my brother-in-laws got shot, Phoenix gang detective, got shot in a critical incident, was able to continue on. And the bad guy didn't survive that event. Ended up taking his own life, but he didn't stop fighting because the guy shot him. He went after him, and he and his partner got the guy trapped in a park, and then the guy chose to take his own life. So from those first ride-alongs, we've had Freddie started it in our family, Fred Cuthbertson Jr., great older brother to his brothers, great older brother to me, in essence. And then since that time, we've had multiple serve as police officers in different cities and do everything from leadership to homicide to SWAT to gangs, all from those early ride-alongs with him. And those other guys have become great police officers. And now we have some of the kids of those guys are now cops too, including Fred's own son is a SWAT cop in Surprise, Arizona. One of the other brothers who joined and is still active as a cop, his son is a cop in Utah. So lots of public service on the law enforcement side from those early ride-alongs. And that's what got us hooked. So then after that, I focused more on that and then went to college, earned my degree, and got on with the Portland Police Bureau. And that's been a true blessing, man.
Yeah, sounds like a crazy good recruitment tool. Those ride-alongs.
Oh, dude, it was great. We were all hooked.
Could you?
Yeah.
I've done a couple of them, man, and actually I went the other way. I realized I don't have the temperament for it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine.
So,
well, good for you. That's good for you to recognize. Yeah. For me, one of the really things that I didn't think one of the things that I didn't think would be amazing, because I kind of got hooked on finding the bad guy, chasing him, and getting in the mix. One of the most amazing parts of being a police officer all these years is actually meeting people in the community. And so I've worked predominantly poor areas or bad areas of Vegas, criminally bad, and I did the same thing in Portland. And what I've learned over the years is kind of what I learned growing up, because we didn't have a lot of money. But it never got emphasized because I had great parents. And then I had great family dynamics, and I was playing sports. But when you get into these communities and you get on a street that's got gangsters that live on the street, but other folks live on that street, or a drug house, a dope house, the other people on that street are good, normal people. They just don't make a lot of money. And oftentimes they're extremely hardworking and extremely family-based, extremely faith-based. They are phenomenal people who don't have the ability to move for whatever reason, or they're not going to move. And you start appreciating those people. And the media and the political nonsense towards law enforcement, in my experience, has not been what the communities actually want of the people who live in those communities. There are many times when those people want more policing. I've had them tell me, just take those guys to jail. There's the bad guys right there. Like someone who owns a home. The ones on the corner, they're the bad guys. And I'm like, well, I know, but constitutionally they can be on a corner. And they're like, well, screw that. Just go get them. And I'm like, I can't. They're like, you should go smash all those dudes. And so when you're working for those people and you start to develop some trust with those people, and those people will actually talk to you, and you don't burn them because they have to live there. So they tell me, hey, this guy's really active. Well, I don't run over to that guy and tell him the neighbor over here in the house said you're really active. And I don't even I have to then go and do my job and try to surveil this guy and try to get a look at what he's doing. Just because someone says he's doing it doesn't make it true. It could be maybe they don't like each other. But it doesn't take very long. And I've always had the drug dealers and the gangsters say to me, because I've worked in gangs, I worked in SWAT, I worked in counterterrorism. I worked in these different units where we were targeting. I worked in a street crimes unit. We're targeting crime. And sometimes the bad guys would go, why are you talking to me? Why are you stopping me? And it might be they're slinging dope. And I would say, well, how does the doper know to ask you for the dope? Like, how does he know? Why doesn't he just go ask somebody else? Do you think dudes are randomly asking you to buy dope? And then they would realize, oh, crap, I really can't talk about this, or I'm going to have to admit I'm slinging dope. But I would see the change in their eye, and I would go, what makes you think I can't watch you and see the same thing the dude who wants to buy heroin sees? I can see the same crap. I just don't want to buy heroin. I'm going to arrest you. But I'm not randomly talking to you, and it's certainly not because you're black or brown. I'm talking to you the same reason a white dude from Summerlin drives over here and talks to you. Because you're doing behaviors that make it known that you're going to move something. And that's why I'm talking to you. So don't be mad about it. This is a business you're in. I'm in the business of
you earned it.
Grabbing, snatching dudes up who are doing what you're doing. It's not racial. It's certainly not personal. We don't know each other. But how does anyone know to stop their car on this block? How do they know to come knock on this door? Like, do you have a sign that says drugs sold here? I go, you do if you know what to look for. But I can look for it just like a dope fiend can look for it. So don't be mad at me that you engage in behaviors that make it known that this is who you are. And that could be a gang. I want to stand on a corner and look at people a certain way. I want to take certain postures. I want to have certain words or challenges I throw out. Well, if you're going to live that lifestyle, don't get mad when the gang unit wants to talk to you. Like, you should actually be kind of proud of it. You're making it, it's obvious you're a gang member. That's why we're having a conversation. So don't make it something that's not. And guys would generally shut up at that point, you know.
Chad, when you see this stuff in politics, what does it do to the average officer as far as how they think about those day-to-day interactions with criminal behavior? So, does it create hesitancy? Does it hinder their mental place when they're going into a dangerous situation?
So it can, but it shouldn't. And I tell guys this all the time. As a police officer, you need to know what you can do, when you can do it, and then you need to do what you're trained to do and what you're allowed to do. Because even if it gets challenged on the back end, I can defend it much easier if I'm doing what they ask me to do, what they train me to do, and I'm doing it the way they train me to do it. So we have a mix of things that I see. It does have an impact. And we'll tackle this in two ways. Number one is the general overriding. The thing you don't understand when you jump into law enforcement is you expect bad guys are going to oppose you. That's kind of like, of course that's going to happen. But it surprises you when politicians or the public or your own department opposes you. And really you're naive. You just don't understand the way this is going to go. The policing agency or the policing industry, they're going to be true to themselves. When I joined Vegas Metro, they gave me a P number. I'm identified by my P number or my personnel number. For me, it's a 4-digit number. For our new guys, it's grown to 5 or might even be 6 now because I'm a real senior guy. But mine's 4 digits. The reason I have a P number is because when they're not happy with me anymore, they could get rid of me. I'm a number. But that's true anywhere you go. Like if you go work at Sears or you go work at Neiman Marcus or you go work at name the place, if you're no longer Apple, if you do something that's counter to what is going to benefit Apple, they're going to try to get rid of you and they're going to try to run you over. So sometimes cops act like this is the only place it happens. It could happen to you in the private sector as well. And in fact, I would argue it could almost happen to you with less protection depending on how good your department is and how good your union is. Now, so there's part of that officers, when they first get exposed to it, get so freaked out about it. They say, well, I can't do anything. That's not really true. The reality is, though, that anything you do might get challenged. And so you should have that mentality. That's one of the reasons I started training. I also studied the law extensively. I studied what I can and can't do extensively. When I go on a call, I know when I can enter the house and when I can't. I know when I can seize something from somebody. I know when I can get into someone's pockets, when I can get into a vehicle, when I can't. So having that knowledge allows me to operate more confidently, for lack of a better word. I also know it could get challenged at any point. And I just have to be ready for that. That's the one part. Riley, I can't see you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
you can.
We've got.
Hopefully you can cut
You've
that.
been a little choppy for a second, but
Okay.
you're okay.
The second thing, though, that is really impactful, Riley, to your question on how does it affect cops, the second thing is you can put a real damper on whether or not I'm going to pursue certain things. I'll give you an example. When I first started as a police officer, if someone was going to kill themselves and their family called in and said, hey, Chad's over at this house, I think he's going to kill himself. And we can see Chad inside the house. Chad's alone in the house. He's pointing a gun at himself. We would start interacting with Chad and try to get him to put the gun down, and we'd try to work through it. And we would try to actually take Chad into custody for a civil evaluation because Chad needs help. But in that process, Chad turns the gun towards us, gets himself shot. Well, now the family says, hey, we called you to help him, you killed him, we're going to sue you. That was kind of part of the job for a number of years. Now DAs have started going, and courts have started saying, well, killing yourself's not a crime. So even though Chad's in his own house, he has a knife, or he has a gun, or even says out loud, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to shoot myself. Leave me alone, I don't want help. Well, that's not against the law. So what the courts started doing, especially out where we live, in the Ninth Circuit and on the West Coast, They started saying, if Chad doesn't commit a crime, why are you using force? And they started saying that's an unapproved use of force. It's an unlawful use of force, and we're going to arrest and charge you for the death of Chad because you caused this shooting. He eventually did point the gun at you, but he wasn't even committing a crime, and you guys are bugging him. So you're contributing. So this is an example of how this can change law enforcement, public changes or pressure. My department's current SOP, standard operating procedure, if I'm suicidal in my own house and I haven't threatened anybody and I don't have criminal history and I lawfully can have a gun, we're driving away. We're not doing anything. We'll go there and ask Chad, hey, you want help? Nope, I don't want anybody's help. And in fact, if you stay here, I'm going to kill myself. Okay, we're going to leave. And we leave. Because the problem is, if we push that, the same people who called us will now call for us to be fired, indicted, sued. And so it's not a law enforcement problem. It's a mental health problem. That's an example of how. Another example is George Floyd happens. And they say suddenly, okay, well, carotid restraint shouldn't be in law enforcement. So the state I live in passes legislation, says you can no longer do carotid restraint. Not in deadly force even. As a police officer, it is unlawful in the state of Nevada to apply a carotid restraint to another human. It's a crime. It's not a policy violation. It's not a use of force policy. It's a crime. Well, my agency used to do 20 to 30 applications of carotid restraint a year, typically with no injury to the bad guy, and we could get him into custody. I applied a carotid restraint years ago on a guy trying to get a knife out who had a scabbard, big buck knife in a scabbard, had his hand on it. My partner was shoving the hands down in, saying he's got a knife, he's trying to get a knife out. I shot a carotid restraint in. We train it a certain way. I got it the way we train it. I finished it. The guy went to sleep. We cuffed him. We didn't have to kill him. We didn't even hurt him. He woke up.
Right.
He's in handcuffs. That option's gone for me because of society. Okay, well, now we'll shoot that guy. But you created this, Mr. Legislature. You created this. Or I'll batter that guy so badly that he loses consciousness, maybe has a traumatic head injury, because I can no longer apply a carotid restraint. And so in those ways, it affects law enforcement significantly. I think some of it is self-imposed by the officers. They just get so, I think it's so shocking when it happens to guys for the first time that the department turns on them and the community turns on them when they have someone, who's coming after them with a knife and they shoot them, and everyone says, oh, well, the shootings, you should have done all these other things other than shoot them. And I think for guys it's overwhelming, and it can tend to make them stop working. I've never had that reaction, and I encourage guys not to have that reaction, but I also encourage them to be smart. Anything that's legislated or anything they're trying to indict our guys on, we're not going to do that anymore. And so voters have to decide, because in Nevada it was we have lawmakers, and those lawmakers are not being held to account. Well, they took away an option from us, which actually is safer for the bad guy, but they took it away for political purpose and to make a statement and all that for a thing that happened in another state. And it's like, okay. So kind of depends.
Yeah. Chad, I would love it if, for the audience sake, you could paint a picture of what happens psychologically, physiologically, because you've got this unique perspective where you were in law enforcement before you trained jiu-jitsu and now, right? And so what is the difference between what goes on in your mind in a hands-on situation as a trained man versus an untrained?
Yeah, and I can even compare that to guys who don't train, who do the job, right? And they get into these fights. The difference is I talk about the C's, and the only reason I talk about the C's is it can be easier for people to recall. I'm more confident, and my confidence is born out of training. It's not false. I'm more competent, meaning I perform at a higher level. Okay? So those two things play closely together. I'm more calm because I'm competent and I'm confident. When I'm confident and then I start doing stuff and it actually works, it allows me to be calm. So in general, I'm rarely elevated. And by being effective with low-level force, I can de-escalate the person's resistance level. And then finally, I'm actually more compassionate because I know what it's like to have body weight on you and you to be dog tired. I know what it's like to get cross-faced hard. I know what it's like to get punched in the face. I know what it's like to feel like I'm going through a grater with the guy putting pressure on me, hammering me. I know what that feels like. And so
Yeah.
I understand what I'm doing to the other person. And what it does is it allows me, by being more competent, more confident, more calm, more compassionate, it really improves my communication with the bad guy, where I can start having effective verbal comms with him because I'm not overwhelmed by the fight. The fight's not overly emotional to me. The fight's not overly... I might still feel a little adrenaline or whatever. I almost don't feel it much anymore. But I might, I might still feel a little bit of tiredness, but I'm familiar with that feeling. I might get hit hard. I've been hit hard a lot. So I'm familiar with what that feels like. That familiarity allows me to be able to not be overwhelmed or try to think of how to solve the problem. I'm doing stuff I've already trained to solve the problem. So now that frees up my bandwidth emotionally and mentally to begin to communicate with this person and tell them, hey, this is how this ends. This is how we get through this is how, hey, take that pressure off me, whatever. Hey, no problem. I'm going to, buddy. Let's get your right hand. This end I'm grabbing. Put it behind your back. Let me cuff you up, and then we'll work through it. Well, I didn't even do it. This bullshit. Hey, no problem. Let me cuff you up, and then we can have a conversation. I promise you, I'll have a conversation. The cuffs can come off. If we're wrong, cuffs are going to come off. You keep fighting me. I'm telling you right now, you're resisting. Now you've got a thing you're not going to get out from under. Just let me finish, whatever it is, right? I can have that clear communication.
Right.
So it dramatically changes. It also, by being trained, I don't want to be a thermometer. I want to be a thermostat in chaotic events for both my team and for the bad guy. A thermometer just matches the other person's temperature. Well, that's not going to do anything to control what's going on. I got to be a thermostat. To be a thermostat, I've got to have the ability to run the temperature in the room. So I got to have the ability to slow it down, and I got to have the ability to go fast when it's time to go fast. And I can set that thermostat for my buddies, even if they don't train, by communicating with them. Hey, slow down. Put your weight on his legs. Pin his legs down. Hey, I need you to pull that shoulder towards you. I'll start giving them the answer to the problem because I train. And I can actually verbally talk them through it. Now, if you already train, if you and I had to take a guy into custody, I would just say, hey, brother, knee on top, knee on top. And you know exactly what that means. You could go there. Hey, gift wrap this guy. Let's turn him. You could do it right now, and you're not a cop. So that really is extremely useful.
Being able to complete the climb to mastery requires the proper nutrition. This is why it's important to take in a potent blend of electrolytes that is in tune with your output and brings strength to your goals. This potent blend is only found electrolytes. Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs.
So, yeah, the key, once you're calm, you're confident, you're competent, you have better communication with your team and with the bad guy. And so you can talk to your coppers and you can tell maybe a less trained officer good things that they should be doing. And you can tell the bad guy things to calm him down. So it just really allows, if you have trained behavior, you won't think of what to do in the middle of a fight. You either know how to fight or you don't. It's like saying, okay, I've learned a few words of Spanish, and I'm going to go talk to a Spanish speaker, and they're going to start talking fast and moving from one topic to another, and I'm going to be able to communicate with them. It's silly nonsense. And these guys who don't train, who know they're going to put their hands on people, then go down range and put hands on people, and you're never training it. Why would you think you're going to be good at it? You're not going to be good at it. It's
Right.
you're going to struggle. Now that doesn't mean it's unlawful. That doesn't mean it's just ineffective. An ineffective force has the appearance of excessive force. So you'll have forces.
Oh, that's a good quote. Say that one more time. I don't want that to go
Ineffective force.
to get biased. So,
Ineffective force has the appearance of excessive force. And so people will watch something ineffective and they'll lose confidence in what they're looking at. And they'll say, oh, this is such a mess. It must have been bad. It must have been unlawful. Then it'll get evaluated on a legal standard and it'll be found that it's not unlawful. The cop could respond to whatever it is they're seeing. It becomes more of an internal issue, like the cop needs better training. He didn't violate the law. And people who don't know the law or the training just see the ineffectiveness of what's happening and they jump on it and go, oh, that must be excessive. Well, it's not. I would argue if I punch a guy 32 times in handcuffs and he's not injured, like out, like needing cert, he's not near death, it's ineffective. Now, it doesn't mean it's correct. It
it's
doesn't mean it's
ineffective.
correct. And I'm not advocating you should be able to do that. But just because something doesn't look good, that's when people lose their confidence in what the officers are doing. And that can happen with your own chain. Think of the chain of command at a law enforcement agency. In the past, it was certain they didn't train because jujitsu was new. I am older than Brazilian jiu-jitsu has been in the U.S. So think about what I just said.
Real. Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu in the U.S. is not 58 years old. It's newer.
Right.
So every guy who was born here that achieved their black belt has done that in anywhere from 10 to 12, 13 years, 14 years, whatever your path was. But it's been in the last 3 decades, 4 decades that Americans started earning black belts in jiu-jitsu. Maybe 5 decades. You got
Yeah.
the Dirty Dozen, the early guys before Keith, the Chris Howders and stuff. Those guys were in the 70s
Yep.
and 80s. They were earning black belts. And, now fast forward to today. So I am older. The UFC really brought jujitsu into America. Not that it wasn't happening in garages or on small levels, but and then even the early UFC did not. It's only been in the last 20 years, 2 decades, it's really taken off. And in policing, I was doing jujitsu in '98. Nobody was doing jujitsu that was a cop in '98, except for other guys like
Right.
me. There were a handful of us, right? But departments weren't adopting it. So then fast forward to now you finally have some administrators who are training. But imagine the administrator isn't training. Um, they're watching this cop try to do DTs. The cops' DTs are horrible. The administrator loses confidence in what he's looking at, but it's still not unlawful. It's just ineffective. And that ineffectiveness erodes everybody's trust in what you're doing. If you're effective and decisive in what
Yeah.
you're doing, people tend to go, okay, well, that's probably what should have happened. I, I think,
You know, that's an interesting way you put that, because I think of my dad would watch me grapple with people, right? And gosh, I think I was a purple belt at the time, right? But he would come down once in a while and sit in the gym and just watch me. And he would kind of get laughing because he's going, man, what you're doing, it seems like you could be so much tougher.
yeah,
I'm saying, Dad, but I'm still winning, man. What you aren't feeling, what that other guy is feeling, right? And there's a lot of, I'll be super calm and just tuning some new guy up, right? And I can do basically what I want. And my dad couldn't see it though. And he's going, well, that guy, it just seems like he's coming at you really hard and you're just kind of being so calm, and it seems like more aggression is necessary. And I'm going, man, it's just not. I don't think you understand. You're not feeling the pressure that I'm able to put on him from different positions and take his balance out and do these things. So for me, I can move very competently because I'm way more experienced than the other guy, right? And that quote you said really is hitting home with me about, and again, I'm trying to remember how you said it, but ineffective force looks like excessive force, right?
ineffective force, the appearance of
It's
and
beautiful.
so then you think of the new guys. You got a white belt in the gym today. You can just make him quit with position and pressure. People quit all the time. This idea that I would
Sure.
never quit, stop it. I can make you quit right now. I mean, for one thing, I could just go, okay, well, we're going to do burpees. You have to do a burpee every second. Ready, go.
Yeah.
You're going to quit. You can try your
Yeah, you
hardest.
can do
You'll
5 of
quit.
those, you're
You'll
gonna be done.
reach your limit and you'll quit. Everyone quits. What I try to do through position and pressure and competent use of force is get the guy to agree to quit. And most guys will. There are those
That's it.
special guys out there that they're committed and they're not going to quit. They have some dog in them. That's one level of guy that might not quit. And then second guy is he's so mentally ill that he believes quitting is not an option. And then the third guy could be a combination of the mentally ill and now he's high, or he's just high and he believes he cannot quit. Those guys, it becomes important that you are using effective force, and you're probably going to lose that fight. They've done study after study. Those guys don't really like. Even cops say, "Oh, he had superhuman strength." The studies indicate even people high on hallucinogenics don't have superhuman strength. They're doing what we could probably do if our mind didn't tell us we couldn't do it. They're doing what we're
Right.
capable of. But the problem is they keep doing it until their
Yes.
body's just done. Our body will naturally tell us, A, you can't do that, or B, you're too tired. Stop doing what you're doing. Like, slow down. They're when they're under the influence of those drugs, what's happening is they just don't have a governor. And the studies have shown they're not
That's right.
strong. Yeah, I could lift a car too if I actually believed I could do it and put everything into it. And you're physically able to do far more. And I was not in the military. I'm not a Navy SEAL, but I have some who work for me on the private side in the business I'm a partner in. And a thing for them was when you think you're done, you have 40% probably left,
That's it.
and you have 30 minimum. You are not done when you think you're done.
Mm.
And that's what they try to bring out in their people through the things they put them through is you're not really done. And I think you people also get there depending on narcotics or mental illness. And so if I can learn to at least get to really good positions where I can be dominant and I can put a lot of pressure. Now it doesn't matter how crazy you want to be. Um,
Yeah.
you're going to be crazy from an inferior position, and I'm going to wear you out, and then I'm going to handcuff you, or if you're a big enough threat, I'm going to have to do some damage, and I'm going to be in a better position to do the damage than if I allowed you to get on top of me because I can't fight. So
Right.
the training really makes a difference.
Talk to officers who are listening to this, man. Talk to them about the need for training, man. What they need to do.
So you mentioned earlier, what's the effect of the political and the just the climate, the scrutiny officers are under. So if I think everyone would agree with me, in 98, stuff you could do in 98 that people would go like, ah, it's part of being a good guy and a bad guy. They no longer look at it. There's far more scrutiny. And I think some of that's good. I think there's nothing wrong with that, especially if we as an industry look at ourselves and find areas we could get better at, such as training and training effectively, so that we can effectively take someone into custody in a professional manner. That's not bad. That's good. But my emphasis to officers is, do you not think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny when you use force or violence on another human being? Don't complain about it. That's the reality of where we're at. Some of that is to our advantage because it forces us to be better than if they didn't scrutinize us. We should be scrutinizing ourselves. We should be looking at ourselves because ultimately what allows me to be more calm and what allows me to slow the pace in a physical confrontation with a resistive individual is my competency and my ability to be successful in those spots and my ability to be
Yes.
safe in spite of the fact there is a threat. There's a threat. It's a viable threat. There's no guarantee I'll win. I might lose. Even though I train, I might lose. So why train at all?
Yeah.
It's so that I can at least be competent, and it's so I can also address in the after action process, I can address what I felt from the bad guy, what my training experience tells me that is, and then why did I select this option to apply during the fight? And the reality is, the courts even say, I don't even have to be right. I just have to be reasonable. What does that mean? What that means is, if I got a guy who turns away from me and he begins to do this, and now he comes out like this with a cell phone, and I believed that was a gun, and it was a gun call, and he was known to be an armed robber, uh, and I'm pointing my gun at him, telling him, don't reach. I think you're getting a gun. Don't do it. Show me your hands. And he flips out with the cell phone and points it at me as though it's a firearm, and I shoot him. That could be a reasonable use of force. There's going to be a lot of people who get upset about it. But then on the back end of that event, when I start talking about his behaviors, his body language, how his hands moved, me recognizing a drawing platform, me recognizing him, cell phones are used like this, like this. Maybe he wants to video the encounter. He would have done this. Instead, he punched it out in a two-handed. I can go right back to training and reps and go, this is why I interpreted what he was doing as this. And and as long as that's reasonable, well, then that's the requirement. And so being trained allows you to not only be in control during the event, there's going to be an extensive after action review process, and that is part of this job. And by the way, that's a good part of this job. Like, go do something else if you don't want to be critically reviewed at the end of. You're taking people's freedoms away. You're using force and violence on another human being. You better get critically reviewed at the end of those processes. You better stay within the legal guidelines that guide those processes when you're out there. This protect and serve thing gets a little trite for me, and especially when we have these guys who go up to cops and they're trying to get the cops to use force, and they're talking trash to them on camera because they know a little bit of the law and they think they can say whatever they want. And really they can, and I'm going to drive away from that. But those guys are just goofy. These YouTube auditors, uh,
These
grow
auditors,
up, go
yeah,
get a real
yeah.
job, whatever. I don't really care about that. I'm going to get no play with them because I'm going to ignore them. But let's say it's not an auditor and it is an actual event. Public review of your events is a good thing. That should happen. Accountability for the force or violence you use on civilians is a positive part of the process and necessary and correct. When you train,
Yeah.
it allows you to go into rooms and have a real conversation about what you saw, what you didn't see, what it meant to you, what you knew at the time you used force, what you didn't know, what the law requires, what your training is, what your department SOPs are. All those things come together and you're able to give a clear accounting for what happened. If you're untrained and you get into an emotional, crazy fight and you just say, oh, well, he was resisting and I was fighting and I don't even know what happened. Well, that doesn't allow for us to get a true review of the event. So my cops who train are not using force outside of training or law. They're not. They're effective when they use force. And even when they have to use high levels of force, we're able to easily talk about why and why it was reasonable. And we're not making it up. It's because the cop sees it,
Right.
they identify key things, and then they're responding to those things, and they understand what's happening. And then they're responding to it. So training assists you in all of that. My first use of force I got sued on and I got beat up on the stand on was prior to me really diving into what can I legally do and what can I not do. And I knew I'd done fine on the event, but I didn't know off the top of my head our use of force model. I didn't understand off the top of my head use of force case law. And then when you get on the stand, you're not allowed to read it. They ask you, officer, what does this case law say? And I didn't know, and I had to admit I didn't know. And then the attorney for the plaintiff who's suing me is like, well, what else does this guy not know? How do we even have any confidence in anything he did to my client? And he made me look foolish, and he raked me over the coals. Now, ultimately, I'd not done anything wrong in the case, and there was no criminal liability. But I went through that process in my. I'd been on the department under 2 years. I'd already started training jujitsu and MMA, and that told me, well, that's not enough. I have to be well rounded. I owe it
Yeah.
to the people I'm putting hands on to be able to sit on that chair.
This is a good thing you're saying, man, because that, whether people are formally these YouTube auditors or whether they're just a civilian recording a situation going on, where the police encounters with these auditors that make YouTube are the ones that go wrong, right? When
Yeah.
they do overstep their bounds. And so we've been talking a lot about the hands-on training, but you're talking about the legal knowledge training. It's just as important.
It's vital. And so I'm at a stage of my career now where I'm a recognized SME in court uses of force. And so when I go to court and the other side is suing and they see me as an expert, they don't challenge that I'm an expert. They stipulate typically. Well, the first few times I did it, I had to talk about my training and what I've done and what I've been involved in and why am I an expert. Well, now I just present my CV and I haven't gotten challenged in years as to whether or not I'm an expert. And that's another thing that'll happen. These guys will watch these videos online and they'll want me to comment on them off a video. And I'll say, well, my opinion is I don't know anything about the case. And they'll say, oh, you're just on the cop side. I'll say, oh, I'm not on the cop side at all. I don't know. I would actually have to understand. Well, there's a video. The video shows the video's from across the street. Doesn't even have the same vantage point those cops did. The video has no sound from the people fighting. You have no idea what they're saying. The video doesn't have the call details. The
Yeah.
video doesn't have anything that happened before the video started. The video doesn't exonerate the officer and it doesn't indict him either. It's a piece of evidence that's valuable that shows there's a fight, shows who's in the fight. It does show questions we might want to ask, but it doesn't say anything. And I
Sure.
say anybody who gives an opinion about a video online and says, this is my analysis of this case, doesn't defend these. They have no idea what they're talking about. They
Right.
just expose themselves. I'm a former cop. I'm a former FBI agent. Let me give my opinion on this piece of video. You're a clown. Unless you were involved in that investigation and you talk to the bad guy, also flip it around. when political conservatives try to say what the bad guy's motive was, absent the bad guy saying it, which does happen, absent the bad guy
Sure.
announcing it or having a manifesto. Oh, well, this guy was a terrorist. No, he might just be a retard. He might just be an idiot. He might just be stupid who firmly believes in the cause he's protesting. And you may not agree with his political views, but he may actually think he can resist a cop with physical force and just understand that he can't. He may literally believe he can. Well, it's because he's a terrorist. I don't know if he's a terrorist. Now, if he's saying, I'm a terrorist and death to these people, and he's chanting things that are very terrorist centric, uh, that's a key piece of evidence as well to try to cement that later.
Sure.
But like the ICE shootings and people have huge opinions and they started texting me, what do you think of this shooting? This shooting's good, this one's bad. The one with the car, there's this. Oh, look at this new one with the car. Look at this new one with the guy who was a nurse. The guy with the nurse was this was his aim. And to all those, I've DM'd people and said, here's my opinion. There's a lot of questions to be asked for both sides. We can see
Right.
there was an encounter, but we're also talking about one city in the nation that keeps having these. Why is that? Why is that? And they're not
Right.
even the top. Minneapolis is not even the top ICE arrest in the nation. That's in New York, that's in LA, that's in Chicago. The amount of arrests in those cities dwarf Minneapolis, but we keep having shootings. So it's all ICE. Now, I don't know that it's not. Maybe it's that field office, but that's a lot of investigation. What does that field office do for training? I don't know. What does that field office know about the protests they're going to? I don't know. I'm not in those briefings.
All right, you sweaty buggers. That liquid dripping off your forehead and down your back contains minerals that are critical for high performance. If you don't put those minerals back, you're not going to perform well. This is where salt electrolytes comes in. Salt contains 6 electrolyte minerals plus a touch of iodine to help you replenish after a hard workout. Salt is the only electrolyte supplement to pair every mineral with its counterpart, giving you the most robust mineral profile on the market, period. Head over to goearnyoursalt.com today to get some for yourself. Use the code GOEARNYOURSALT to get 15% off your first order. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
That's why these things take time. Can I look at an event that's public? Eric Garner, Freddie Gray in Baltimore, the guy in Minnesota. Can I look at those events and go, hey, I got a lot of questions? Yeah, no problem. I got no problem with that. But for you to look at a video and go, this is what happened, that just shows you
Right.
don't do this for a living. It's like you watching heart surgery, a heart surgeon, and going, oh, I know how it went wrong. I know where the surgeon I know where it went south. You don't know. Now, you might be able to hear machines beeping. You might be able to see a graph change, and you might be able to see people's intent change. You might see blood suddenly appear where there was no blood. So you know something happened, but you don't know what happened. You're not a heart surgeon, nor do you have the ability to investigate it. But
That's
I
for
got
real.
all kinds of opinions of cop uses of force. Oh, I can just look at the video. If you're a cop and you think you can look at the video, it just shows you don't do this professionally. And that's okay. I mean,
That's right.
and if you're not a cop, you have no idea what you're talking about. Now, that doesn't mean what you're looking at is okay. It doesn't mean that. But for me to identify what it is, now, I will watch those and think in my head, this is what I would look at. This is, you need to know why that happened. And I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for
But
real.
I'm even careful with
Like you
that.
said before, it gives you questions to
Yeah,
ask,
I'm even
right?
careful with that publicly, though, because people will take that one thing I'll say and then they'll go, oh, well, he said this was good or bad. So I got into back and forth with one guy to the point where he starts sending me hate DMs and going, well, now I see you're the enemy and stuff. And I'm like, dude. And I tell the guy, hey, send me your cell and I'll literally have a phone conversation with you. I'm not going to text all this stuff back and forth. And I'm certainly not going to do it publicly. But I'll actually explain to you how police use of force works. Call me. I'll call you. This is a random dude. He's got a fake username. I said, I will literally take time out of my day and have a conversation with you. And he had a very specific question about one shooting. And I said, and I would tell you what I would look at and the answers I would need to know on both sides. No, I don't have any desire to do that. You're just trying to stick up for the cops. So finally, he starts telling me I'm the enemy
Yeah,
and he hates me. And so I'm like, hey, dude, you're following me. You're popping up on my feed. So I just banned the guy. But that's the issue you have
yeah,
on these things. You have these crazy opinions. And it's like, hey, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's not okay. I'm saying it's anytime you shoot somebody, we need a very significant review of that case. We need to figure out what went right. And by the way, there's going to be things that could have been done better. Doesn't make it criminal. Doesn't mean it's not. But there's going to be things to learn from each one of those events. So let's do a full review, but that takes time. You don't know what
yeah, for
as
real.
you watched it. It's just silliness.
Chad, in a perfect world, what would the training time versus the working time look like for a law enforcement officer?
We need to get more like fire. The firefighters. And what I mean by that is we need to start um, training every single week at work, 2 to 4 hours a week, every week, hands on, not diversity class, not a form of de-escalation is effective low level force. That's one of the biggest forms of de-escalation is when I grab you, I convince you by the way I grab you and how effectively I grab onto you that this doesn't need to go anywhere else. And you allow me to handcuff you. That's a form of de-escalation. Okay. So 2 to 4 hours a week, every week, nationwide, it is part of your work week that you will train. And the training will consist of grappling, striking, weapons, team tactics, all those things. And you have to do it every week, and it's part of your work week. That is what needs to happen. In some
Oh, that'd
in
be
some
amazing.
departments, that's happening. Some departments are allowing their cops to train every day at work. The standard currently is annual training. So think of that, it's once a year. If you're
No,
biannual is another
yeah,
standard, quarterly, and you're a great police department, 4 times a year. So how would my jujitsu look 4 times a year? That'd
terrible,
be ridiculous. Be silly.
terrible.
It's goofy. C over T equals R. Consistency over time gives you a result. See, consistency over time gives you a result. If you consistently over time do not train, the result is you become less competent. Hard stop. There's no way
That's it.
you
Yep.
cannot stay the same in any aspect of your life spiritual, emotional, physical fitness, financial stability, as a dad, as a husband, as a partner, whatever your preferences are, academically, your combatives. You don't stay the same. You're always getting a little better or a little worse. The only thing that will determine long-term progression is consistent over time, repeated training a little, a lot, not a lot, a little. Law enforcement training is a lot, a little.
Hmm.
I go to an academy that's 6 months long. After that 6 month block, I enter the workforce. Now I train annually. So I trained a lot, a little. That does not produce proficiency. Training a little, a lot produces proficiency. C over T equals R.
Yes.
So we need to not, it's one of the big arguments is should we do GST? Should we do EFC? Should we do PJJ? Should we do OSS, which is a program back east, which is phenomenal. Who's training with Rob McGow, who's Keith, he's a Pedro black belt.
Yeah.
Rob McGow,
Pedro Sauer. Yep.
great guy. Should I do his system? I don't care what system you do if you're not training consistently, because none of your people are getting good at it. The only way to get good at,
None of it's gonna work
the only
anyways.
way to get good at any of it is to train consistently over time. And my department trains pretty well, more than most. We're still not where we should be, and that's okay. I work for a very good police department. I love the department I work for, and I love the people there, and I've only been blessed by being here. But that doesn't mean we couldn't do better. One of the areas we could do better is the frequency of our training. So the
Yeah.
industry is broken in
Yeah.
that regard. Very few departments, less than 1%, are training even every week. If you didn't know, how often do you
Yeah.
think,
Well, that's what the
if you
question
didn't
was.
know, how often do,
It was perfect
how
world,
often
right?
do you think without, what would you assume I'm required to do with my handgun a year in live fire? What would you assume? And my department trains a lot.
Um,
So what would you assume now?
I have a little bit of inside knowledge with, well, I don't know about your department, but around here, um, and I kind of think that's changed recently, but it was an annual qualification test, and that test
Yeah,
consisted
but
of
did
like
that surprise you?
25 rounds, and they had to score
Did that
80%.
surprise
What's
you when
that?
you found out that's what it is?
It blew my mind.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you assume we were getting to
Yeah.
shoot on a pretty routine basis before you knew?
I 100% did.
I
I did.
believe people think we
Yeah.
train all the time. And that's why they'll be like, this cop didn't de escalate or he didn't shoot well. They're trained to do that. No, they're not. They're absolutely not. But
Not
the
trained to do
average
that.
person assumes you, if you didn't know, before you knew, did you think I could just go shoot kind of whenever I want? The department must have a range and I can go up there and shoot my gun? Yeah, absolutely not. The department schedule,
Yeah, not the
that
case.
range is being used by other people. You can't just go up there. Like, absolutely.
No, you know, it was an interesting thing. I went down when it was still open. There was a place outside of Vegas called
Yep.
Front Sight. You're probably familiar
Yep.
with, right? And I would go down there and train a couple times a year for a season there. Several years I did that. And you know, we'd get lined up in the line, and I'd get partnered with somebody from law enforcement. And I'd see the gamut there. I'd see guys who literally had to be shown which way to put the magazine in the gun, to guys who were really super competent shooters. But all of them coming from the law enforcement background, you could tell the guys who took time on their own to train,
Yeah,
right?
not hard to see. Not hard to see.
Man. Chad, can we move on to some lighter questions as we start kind of landing the
Sure.
plane here?
Yep.
Okay. Listen, this is called the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, just like my shirt
Cool.
here. Go earn your salt. Okay. When you hear the phrase "go earn your salt," what does it mean to you?
Probably doing those little things, whether you want to do them or not. It probably means discipline. Like, you know, go earn your salt would indicate to me that a commitment or a discipline as opposed to a motivation. Motivation fades in all aspects of our life. I married my
Yeah.
years and years and years ago, uh, and the newness and the excitement of it being new and being super attracted to her and having that be new was crazy exciting. The deepness of earning over the years a relationship with her, that happened long after the newness faded away. And long after I saw the newness of
Yes.
her and me fade away. She used to say to me, I think you're perfect. And it used to scare me because I knew I wasn't. And I thought, what is she going to do when she figures out that's not true? And when I let her down or I disappoint her or I don't do, what's going to happen then? Oh, you always do the right thing. I don't always do the right thing. And I used to be worried about it. Earning your salt is a fact. She loves me and I fall short. And the motivation and the butterflies left a long time ago. But that's what that means to me is you have to earn this. This is earned by consistent, ongoing, daily doing what you need to do, regardless whether you want to do it. Does not matter what you want. Doesn't matter if you're motivated. Motivation is fleeting. It's not even a thing. I could give a crap about being motivated. Guys will say to me, "Oh, I'm motivated," after hearing me talk, and I'll say, "Well, be committed, be disciplined, be motivation means jack squat with earning your salt. It's about a commitment, it's about a discipline, and it's about continuing to go."
Beautifully said. What is your favorite pastime?
Well, I've got a few. Spending time with my wife and my family, training for sure. Training, spending time with my wife and my family, reading, and then even like scripture study. I enjoy that too. So pretty much those are kind of things I like to do.
Right. Chad, what's something quirky about you that people don't know?
Uh, huh. I'm not technologically. I'm so bad that it is horrifically bad. And they used to call me Stone, and even back in the day in gangs and SWAT, because I would handwrite everything, warrants, everything, and you could jump on computers, get a template, and all that. And I am broken. I'm broken as far as technology. I'm horrible.
It's like called just Stone like Stone
Ah,
Age. Is that what you're
yeah,
getting at?
they would joke about it and say Lyman will need that written out on a stone tablet, and then I got papers everywhere. I got stuff written down on papers. I still do a day timer that I carry around and I write in.
There you
Instead of
go.
just
Okay.
keeping it on my phone, which you could totally do, which a lot of times then I take it from there and put it into my phone. But I have to have something that I have physical that I can carry around. Yeah, it's carry a bag
I
everywhere.
love it,
My
man.
bag has that. My bag's got weapon systems. I got a bag everywhere. So quirky.
What what's your favorite food?
Probably Mexican food. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or Thai food.
that's a good choice, man. Do you got a favorite thing within the Mexican food genre?
No, I like it in general. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because you say that, and I can think about 10 things I would just happily eat out of the just instantly,
Yeah.
right? Um, Chad, what is the scariest moment of your life?
Hmm. I don't know. It's I don't I don't know. I've got a phobia of heights, but it's not based on
Phobia
a
of
phobia
what?
of heights. It's not based on anything. It's not real.
Heights.
Like
Okay.
like I joined the rope rescue team in Portland to overcome it and did everything required, got certified and in SWAT. We would rappel and come out of helicopters and stuff, and I did all that, but I hated it. And I'm scared the whole time. I hate it. I got a phobia of the dentist. But the thing I'm really scared of, um, probably as I get older, not being physically competent uh, is probably pretty scary. Uh, I can see that ability to fight start to leave, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we all have to, especially in the martial arts world, have to reconcile, right? It's like a constant mental battle for
Yeah,
sure.
and for me,
Um,
it's I got to protect my family and that kind of thing. So I get older, I don't like that aspect at all.
yeah. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Uh, well, a couple of them. One is build a relationship with God and with my Savior Jesus Christ. It's been really rewarding for me. And then the most important person, the most important decision you're going to make in your lifetime is your partner, and that's definitely proven to be true. And then if you choose that person and you find that person, you need to remember who they are and you need to keep them there. Be true to them. And I can say I've never pursued, like, I have zero nervousness of someone ever coming to my wife and saying I'm texting them or I'm pursuing them. Like, that just has not happened from the moment that she said yes to me. There's not a female, and I'm not weird with women. I talk to women at church, or I talk to them at work, and I have women that I would even consider friends or whatever, but none that I talk to on a regular basis. I don't text them and I don't call them. I don't have any relationships that are significant with a female outside my wife.
Got some guardrails built around
And
that, huh?
that's for me. It's not like, you know, that's how that stuff starts is, you're upset with
Yeah.
her. If I'm upset with her,
Yeah.
uh, if she's irritated me or I've irritated her, stay focused on her. That's not gonna go to somebody else. And not that someone else wouldn't have good intentions to help or something, but that just don't do that. I got told not to do that. I got told don't ever talk about her disrespectfully, even to your parents. If people ask about her, awesome. And, and I've said that over the years, and it's proven to be true. Like, I say it now, and I mean it. I even meant it when we were first married, but you have those first few arguments or something happens that irritates you. Being true to that has been very, very important. And
That's
it's
awesome,
been
man.
good.
That's awesome. Chad, what's you mentioned you're a reader. What is your favorite book of all time?
Scriptures.
Besides scriptures. We're just as far as like recreational type reading or self-improvement type reading, that's that sort of a thing.
Um, yeah, there's one I'm fat. It's on the tip of my tongue. Golly, I've got it at work. It's on my desk. Um, I like I like stuff that um talks about mindset and talks about um working through things. Man's Search for Happiness is a pretty good book. That's an example. I
Yeah,
like
good one.
that one. Books in that kind of genre. I'm currently reading another one. It just escapes. It's
Are you talking about Man's Search for
Man's
Meaning?
Search
Is that
for
what you're
Meaning.
talking about
Yep,
with?
really good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good book. That is one of my favorites. So be right up there. Just with how amazing Viktor Frankl was and being able to deal with the things that were happening and still find the meaning, right? That's a really good book.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that one last year. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Um what's next for you, man? What's where are you going from here?
So I'll finish up my career. I don't know when for sure that'll be over, and then I'll continue to coach and train. I judge fights for the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I'll get more into that, and I'll keep working once I leave law enforcement. You know,
Yeah. If people want to find you out in the interwebs, where can you be found?
so I'm on Facebook, Chad Lyman, and C4C PJJ. I'm on um, I'm on YouTube with Chad Lyman and also PFC Training, Paul Frank Charlie Training. And then on Instagram, C4C PJJ and C4C Operator. But if you Google me, I'm probably gonna pop up. Honestly, it's
We'll If
a
what's
few
that?
spots. And then our webpage is PFC Training has a webpage, and also C4CPJJ, C4CPJJ.com, PFCtraining.com. Both those you can find firearms, tactical training, physical training.
Wonderful. We'll make sure and list them below, okay? That way people can find you there. Listen, man, we're gonna wrap it up here. It was awesome having you on. I just love the wisdom you're dropping, dude, and it's so informative to see what life is like from the other side of the badge, right? See what goes through an officer's head and all the stuff going on behind the scenes. And dude, you're a wealth of knowledge there. So thank
Well,
you.
thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right, Chad, go earn your salt,
Yes,
my friend.
sir. Thank you.
Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I want to know, are you or someone you know a getting after it, go earn your salt type of person? If so, message me directly on Instagram at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and perhaps we can have you on the show. Also, if you like this content, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And perhaps this podcast can help you and them go earn your salt.